There is a huge difference between early stage product managers and, let's say, rather product managers for scale ups or large, already mature products. Because in that phase, you need somebody who is more incremental, who is not just bringing new huge ideas and changing the course, but who is more like just doing little tweaks, improving, let's say, these decimal points in the conversion rates, doing small experiments. It's much more about scalability. It's much more about building robust solutions and then just helping them to grow step by step.
Welcome to the Startup Huddle. I'm your host, Josef Maruščák, and I'm excited to introduce you to the current and upcoming leaders of the startup tech world. We'll discuss digital products and key takeaways for life and professional growth. So grab a coffee and let's huddle up. Hey everyone, another episode here. Today we have a very special guest, the first guest from actually Sudolabs. Today, here we are with Jan Koscelansky. Jan is co-founder and also currently Chief Product Officer. Thanks very much for coming, Jan.
Hi, Joseph. Thank you very much for having me. I'm a regular listener of this podcast, so I'm glad to take a part.
Perfect. I'm really looking forward to this episode. We'll be talking about, at least I would like to talk about and touch upon your experience with product building, idea validation, all the different aspects of things that you need to do before you start actually engineering the product, and all the other things you need to do once you've started to maximize the chances of success. And then you also are leading quite a big product/design team, so we could maybe touch upon that as well. But before we start, what about giving us a short background, what you did, how you got here?
You're right, gladly. So, as you said, currently I'm a partner and chief product officer here in Sudolabs. What does it mean is that I'm responsible for our product department that comprises especially of product managers, product designers, product consultants, and all the roles that are necessary to define what is the right product for the target audience, and then to cooperate with the engineering, which is the second important part in our company, to deliver the final product to our clients. That's what I do now. My background is a little bit different. I studied corporate finance. Then I moved to management consulting. I was working for a couple of years in Accenture in a strategy consulting department, helping various corporates to drive digital strategies and help them to become more digital and technology oriented. Then I moved to a software company. I moved to Berlin and I was working as a product manager for a large global e-commerce. It's called OLX, and actually it got more than 300 million monthly active users, which is really, really huge if you compare it to some more known products. It's like Twitter or Spotify, similar numbers. And also we had around 2,000 people in product and tech, right? So it was really a huge organization, which was super interesting to be part of. Then I moved back to Czechoslovakia, to our region, took part in various startups, and that's how I ended up with you guys in Sudolabs, and now we are building more and more startups as well.
Yeah, what a pleasure having you here. But also at the same time, you are very, you have a very special background because you are in the intersection of essentially starting in business and finance, management consulting. Then also you have a tech background to a certain extent as well. Then heavy PM, heavy product background, and also on the intersection of startups and enterprises, which we see is very handy when especially now we started as Sudolabs working with more enterprise customers. So can you maybe quickly explain how you got from enterprises and from the business and management consulting to product managers? And is this something that to the product, and is this something that PMs normally do? Is this a typical path for a product manager?
Yes, so for me it was a path because I was always somehow inspired by the technology, and anything we did in a consulting part of my life ended up with some kind of technology solution. So any kind of strategy that we define for our clients, or any kind of process improvement, any new market proposition, was at the end enabled by some kind of technology solution. So I seen that this is the right path, and it would be only growing in a way that, okay, these consulting companies are really good in defining what the business needs, but the technology part is not their key competence. So I was trying to find where this technology is like really a core business. That's why I moved to proper software development company. And as I didn't want to be a software engineer, I tried this path, but it didn't satisfy me so much. So for me, natural path was to join product, because basically product is the right intersection of all these aspects. It's very much business oriented, very much market oriented, driving financial successes, but also heavily interconnected with technology. And that's what usually product managers do, yeah, to connect all these parts. And I don't know if this is a typical journey of a product manager. I think product managers are often coming also from the engineering side. It's very good for product managers to have an engineering background or design background. But yeah, having a business background is like I have is also one of the options.
That makes a lot of sense, and I think it ties very well the intersection that you just described into what we actually as well do in our services, and how we approach what we call internally product discovery. We work with a lot of early stage startups. Every single on our startup side vertical, almost every single of our client have great ideas, have great visions of what they want to build, but also as every startup has, but also at the same time there's so many unknowns, so many assumptions, and typically, once until you get to the market, and until you start actually interviewing your target users, it's very hard, or getting data from them, it's very hard to know whether you're going in the right direction. So from your experience, from everything you've seen in your job, whether before or right now at Sudolabs, what do you think are the key risks when we talk about the first steps of every founder, the product validation part, the idea validation part?
Yes, it's very good topic, because usually at the beginning, many people or many founders are scared about more visionary, long-term things like, okay, am I gonna get to 1 million users as I wanted, as fast as I planned, or is my company gonna be a unicorn on this stuff? But usually, what they should focus at the beginning is exactly that risk mapping and understanding if their idea is just an idea or if there is really a potential. We can take it even by the definition, because this question has already well defined and accepted answers. What are those risks? And those risks are usually four types. One is the let's say value risk or desirability risk, meaning that okay, you can have a beautiful idea, you can have it based on your need, your problems, but is there enough enough large market for such a problem? Is there enough people having this problem as well as you have? And especially, are these people willing to pay you if you solve this problem for them? So basically, the first point you need to validate somehow, and we can talk about it later, but definitely to focus on is the desirability, the value behind the product. Second part is, let's say, usability. So the question here is, okay, if you even find the valuable problem that the users will be able to pay for, is the solution that you're going to bring them really intuitive, easy to understand? Is it usable from the perspective of the users? You can imagine early blockchain solutions. They were basically solving a right problem. There was a lot of people behind, wanted to have some blockchain or crypto solutions, but usually it was not usable. It was so tech oriented, so raw, kind of not having a lot of traction for the mainstream. Yeah, and that's exactly what I'm talking here. That so the usability and ability to build such a solution that masses or many people can use this product. Another one from the technical perspective is feasibility that needs to be taken into account at the beginning, meaning that can we build this solution with the given resources, with the given budget, with the given time frame, or in general, if there is enough technology for it? We see it now many times in the AI space, right? When our clients approach us with really good problem that they want to solve, the end solution is definitely usable, right? We can build such a product that's gonna be easily understandable and usable. But to really build it from the infrastructure, from the technology perspective, to deploy such a model can be extremely expensive or just take such a long time that it's just not feasible. So that's why this third element needs to be validated as well. And last, which is probably more standing on the shoulders of the founder, is like a business viability. So can I find enough resources? Can I attract good talent? Can I basically attract partners? Can I raise funds on that? That's why we always try to work with founders where we see so-called founder market fit, meaning that the founder should be already somehow well accepted on the market and understand the industry, and not like just having an idea and trying to explore completely new domain, which can be very significant blocker for this fourth risk.
That's definitely helpful for most of the listeners, and it's also great that the that there is enough resources maybe outside in the world or already validated concepts of what people should look at and founders should look at when when starting with their products. And definitely, as far as I know and how I see our offering, we try to go for stuff that is well accepted, best practice frameworks, etc. um, Now, you talked about four main risks. Which of those you think is the one of the most common uh, death sentence for the startups?
All of them are relevant. I think all of them should be checked, and it very much depends on the particular situation. Um, Basically, what is important for the founders is to be the visionaries, right? The founders needs to be able to sell their idea, to sell it to their investors, to sell it to the people. And that's what is also tricky, because if you are believing to your idea so strongly, then uh, then you can forget about those potential risks. And I think how to solve it is to split the roles with some other person, ideally a product manager or a chief product officer or a CTO. So basically, as a founder, to partner early enough with a person who will be more down to earth, who will be able to complement your visionary thinking with some kind of more executional focus. And that's what we do in Sudolabs with our clients. I think that's where we can add the most value. So basically, take their vision and start to digging deeper, start to validating each risk, start to do building some prototypes, because it's never just so straightforward. You need to focus on your idea, but be able to change the path how to get there. And as we've seen with almost every successful client or with every successful product that we built, it was not the product as we started with, right? Throughout the journey, there were so many pivots. Every time it changes somehow. So usually, if we see that some of our clients, usually, let's say after second year or maybe third year, get to the Series A, then it's not because their initial idea succeeded, but it's because they were able to be flexible on the product. Really something, learn from it, change it completely. Sometimes even throughout the product discovery, we usually find out that the idea is good, but the final solution needs to be completely different than it was that was the initial plan. So be open-minded, be flexible, count with this reality that it's going to change a lot, and keep in mind all the risks and find somebody that can complement you and focus on those risks, as you as a founder need to be the visionary. Yeah, you need to be like a forward looking guy or somebody. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And uh, also from my perspective, when I'm talking to so many startups, I can definitely see that mm, most of the founders, and especially maybe the less experienced ones, uh, they maybe even be from the industry, or they have experienced the problem they are trying to solve themselves, and then they assume that the way how they would like to have the solution be made, everyone else as well, and that ties well to the first risk, right? The value risk. So from my perspective, you can solve one problem in so many ways. But and the role, as I understand it, of our product department, or of any product person, is to find the most suitable way of solving that problem. So how would you go about this? So let's talk about value risk and maybe figuring out whether my idea is actually solving that problem. How do I validate that, and how to structure the solution so that it really solves the problem in the most time efficient and maybe cost efficient way?
The good thing that you mentioned is focus on the problem, and I think this is where it should start. So at the beginning, you should not focus on your solution, because this is really fluid, and you can believe that this is the best solution for you. But exactly as you said, there needs to be like thousands or millions of other people that also will say the same sentence: this is a good solution for my problem. And usually what we do, and there is a good example with one of our clients from last month, that we were doing discovery phase together with, and they were trying to solve the problem of building data pipelines. I don't want to get into much of the technical details, but basically the problem space was how to enable data engineers to build and manage their data pipelines. It's like a technical infrastructure for transferring and working with data. So how to build these data pipelines in a much more efficient way. Okay, perfect problem description. And now they approached us, of course, also with a suggested solution. They wanted to build something like a low-code platform where the developers would be able just drag and drop these data pipelines, connect some data sources, and play with the data without necessity to write the code. And this was their solution idea. And what we often suggest is to pause here. Let's do a step back and let's validate with the market if the problem exists, if there is enough people. In this particular case, we were trying to understand with discussions with the data engineers if they also feel that this problem about managing and maintaining data pipelines is so urgent for them, which we successfully validated. With any data engineer we talked, they said, yes, this is like a tedious work to do. And then if we ask them about our suggested solution and try to explain it to them and discuss it, if this is like value adding thing for them, the result was not so positive. And we found out that basically those data engineers felt the problem as our client suggested, but they didn't want such a low code, no code tool. What they wanted was pre-built templates or something that can help them to manage the code, to create the code, but they didn't want to get rid of the code. So at the end, basically we find out that yes, it's a good problem, let's focus on it, but let's try to find a completely different solution. And it really dragged us to let's say even a different domain. And the client was actually super happy, because if they would spend planned resources for the development of such a tool, then release it, and then find out that, hey, okay, actually nobody wants it, then it's going to be a huge problem.
Yeah. Sure. And I guess that in this example, we also solved the client quite a lot of money, not only on the fact that they didn't have to rebuild the stuff, but also I guess that the template solution might be easier to implement, right, than build a completely new low-code solution for that.
Exactly, and that's only like the beginning, right? You can start with some kind of code templates, with some kind of prepared code snippets that can help, and then you can add more features, but again, based on the user feedback, ideally. So we can have like a huge roadmap in our heads, but we always should be iterative. That's also our rule here in Sudolabs. We try to release any kind of a product iteration in maximum 8 to 10 weeks. So anything we want to build needs to be small enough to be developed within 8 to 10 weeks. If our estimate is that the scope is larger, and it would need more time, then it's a goal for a product manager somehow to descope it, somehow to prioritize something out of the scope and to make sure that something can be released to the market within 8 weeks, and then collect the feedback and then decide what to build next.
Great. You touched upon another interesting thing, at least for myself. So, when you said that the key component of the value risk is whether I'm gonna actually be solving a real problem for enough people, like how do I know whether I've talked to enough people, or especially in like consumer products, how many people should I talk to?
When we are talking about user interviews, when we are talking about personal interactions where you can follow up on your questions, when you can have a deep discussion with the user, that's where the magic happens. And then that's where you actually don't need to have so many participants, where there is a rule, and it's like scientifically almost confirmed by the professionals, done by the Norman Nielsen group of user experience designers. They counted that usually it's 5, maybe 6 participants that you need to interview, and then the patterns start to repeat, right? After maybe 4 interviewees, you will start to see some patterns. Then the 5th one, it's going to be like confirmation. Yes, we are on the good track. And then the 6th one, you will even say that, hey, I didn't have to do this interview because it was again the same. What is important to do is to have participants from the very similar target audience. So that's important part you need to do at the beginning, not just randomly asking some people on the streets, but you need to clearly define if this is your target audience, if they are having the same problem as you are trying to solve. And then when you are discussing with this cohesive group of people which are having the same problem, which are belonging to the same segment or working in the same context, then this pattern starting to occur, and you really don't have to interview many people.
Great, that's definitely some useful advice. Are there any other like maybe, of course, like there's so many ways, and I see that the product managers have to be very creative yet structured and do it in the proper way. But are there any other like typical ways of validating the value risks? I mean, many companies, for example, do focus groups, right? So they ask like a large number of people about what they think about certain things. Like, do we ever use that, or is there any other suggestion?
There are many potential ways how to do it. I think focus groups are good as well. It depends on the case. Focus groups are maybe good to understand some group dynamics. Yeah, that's why it is a focus group. If you are trying to understand maybe some more individual perspective, then the group can be biased together. So then it is better to go with the individual user interviews. I think at the beginning, at the first stage, is very much about qualitative research, right? If you are just validating your initial idea, trying to understand the value behind it, then you need to be talking with the people. Then you need to be focusing on like the small details. How do they behave when they are talking about their problem? You need to be kind of a little bit of a psychologist to see the reactions, to empathize with those respondents, and really get to the nitty-gritty details of their problems and understanding of your potential solution. The more you are advancing with your product endeavor and development, in the later stages, it's much more than about the qualitative research. So about the data, just releasing some experiments, and in that phase, we are not talking anymore just about 5, 6 respondents. Then we are starting to talk about like hundreds or some significant amount of people.
Yeah, and that I think that we could talk about all those different risks and the methods of validating for maybe hours from now. So maybe I'll just go further. But again, if anyone is interested to learn more, feel free to reach out. I'm also interested. So another thing that you mentioned is that we want to release something quickly, right? 8 to 12 weeks, as you said. No, so And I see a lot of founders on the market as well that like spend half a year talking to different people in an unstructured way, trying to get more and more information before they decide to go for the product or go for the establish the startup. So how much validation is too much validation for you? Like when do I know that I have enough information to feel confident enough that at least to a certain extent I've de-risked the process?
Well, you're never gonna get enough confidence, and it's not possible to wait for such a moment. Also, on the other side, it's not possible just to jump into the development with some kind of assumption. So I think it's not so much about the length of the process, but about the iterations in the process. So one example is maybe a client who was talking about his idea uh, with some potential clients for I don't know how many months, and he was just getting positive feedback because if you don't do it in a structured, let's say even scientific way, you are just talking to some people and they don't want to disappoint you or they don't want to be rude, so they say, hey, yeah, it's a great idea, go for it, right? It's more like a friendly confirmation than a real scientific experiment. So you can be talking to these people for months and it's not going to work. What you rather need to do is to move fast with the small iterations, and ideally, okay, talk with a few people about it, get your validation, and then move further and then build something. Build some really small prototype, some small iteration, something that can be like tested, that you can see, okay, how does it behave, get some perception of it, get it back to the hands of those users, get the feedback, and then move again, and then spend, I don't know, another 4 weeks in improving that prototype. Because usually what happens is that you can have a lot of validation and a positive validation, but then when you scope the product and you want to have in the initial version, in the initial iteration of the product, like everything from all kinds of features, you just want to really something perfect, then that's the main reason for the failure. Because validation is not just about discussions, validation is also about moving in these small cycles, and maybe that's even more important. And that's where we always try to recommend to our founders to really not be so perfectionist about their first product, but be able to go with on the market with something really scrappy, with something really maybe just like 10% of their ideal state. But let's build it. Let's give a chance to the team to play with the solution. Let's give something to the hands of the users, and let's do it often, every month, something.
Yeah. So what you're saying is that um, before you actually show the product to the users and let them feel it and let them play with it and let them actually try to solve their problem with the product, uh, it's still it's a lot more sort of general or full of assumptions. And the more the product gets to the final stage and the more the users play with the product and the more people use the product, then you know that you are going in the right direction, right?
Yes, and you just need to be able to see this product development process as something that is really even uncomfortable, let's say, because um, usually the founders really see this product as their maybe a child or a pet that they want to pimp into maximum potential way, so that it's really like doing exactly how they imagined it, and only then go to the market, which is usually a huge problem because you spend a lot of effort into building such a desired state. Uh, so you really need to go with this really small iterations, building something on the prototype level, and then improve it in like 2, 4, 3 weeks development cycles.
So as I understand it now, then essentially you plan your roadmap, right? You plan your validations as well, and what are you actually going to validate in that product with the users into different cycles. And so you're not you, but are you building constantly as well? Are you engineering in the background, or are you essentially like full stopping the engineering and then going for the I don't know 4 weeks user interviews and then coming back to the engineering, or how does the process work there?
You need to have a proper proper scaled team for it. So for the beginning, if you start with, let's say, a product manager, a product designer, and some kind of a software engineer or a tech lead, these three people, they can be continuously working on the initial phase of the product for, let's say, a couple of months. It can be enough, maybe 2 or 3 months, to build like a first understanding of the problem space, which is, as we said, driven especially by the interviews and discussions with the users, but then move forward to some kind of prototyping and really starting to design and build a solution, and then again give it to the users, get some feedback. This can be done in a really small team. Later on, as you are more confident and start to growing maybe the engineering team, you need more engineers, then you grow the design team as well. Maybe you can go continuously even without stopping the development. If you have a possibility to stop, pause the development for a while and just leave the product on the market and collect the feedback, that's also fine. But I would say that even throughout these phases, you can maybe solve some kind of a technical debt. You can still improve the product somehow, because throughout these development phases, you always put something on the side that is important and you say, hey, okay, I will do it later. So ideally, you release something, pause the development of the new features, focus on the collection of the user feedback on this main product, and in parallel, maybe fix some issues on the back end, do some cleaning. But also a good practice is just to pause the development completely for a couple of weeks. That's also fine.
And yeah, I mean that's very interesting. And without being too salesy right now about our company, I feel that this is, and also that's the feedback from the users and from our users, which are startup founders for most part, that that's what they value quite a lot. The fact that it's a flexible solution, and they can many times, especially when things go wrong and they need to deep dive into the research or additional user interviews over time, or even in the typical cycle, right? When they release the MVP and then suddenly there is a lot of product work that needs to be done. Their internal engineers sort of sit around and they feel like their job is not so productive, and they're essentially paying for the hours that are not necessarily used for the to push the product further and create business value. So I find our solution actually to be quite good in a way that you are only paying for the hours that are actually spent on the product, on building and creating the user value, and at the same time, because it's flexible, right?
Exactly. That's main thing what you need as an early stage startup founder: flexibility. You need the flexibility in your head, not to be so much fixed on your initial solution, but you need flexibility also within your team. And if I would start a new startup, I would never hire my own team directly from day one, because it's just a burden, right? You need to be flexible. You need to spend resources in the moment when they are needed. You need to maybe even change people. You need to be like trying to cooperate with different kind of personalities in the team to find the right setup. And as well, I've seen so many times in my previous experiences that features into the product were generated not because the users needed them, but because there was a bunch of developers sitting there and didn't have anything to work on, right? And that's like the worst possible thing you can do.
Exactly. Now, you said that in the beginning it's a lot more about the qualitative research. Later on, you are getting a lot more data about the users, and essentially, what all those iterations are trying to achieve, and the iterative process in product building is trying to achieve, is to get closer to what the buzzword product market fit. So, how do you know from the quantitative data and from which metrics you should follow to see whether you are getting there, or whether you're in the wrong direction, especially later on when there's a lot of studies happening and we're tweaking the product further?
Yeah, product market fit is like this magical unicorn that everybody is trying to catch. What is nice about the product market fit is that you don't even need those metrics or a quantitative confirmation. Usually, when a startup gets the product market fit, they will know. They will know because suddenly the daily problems that you are solving has changed. Suddenly you are facing the infrastructure limitations. Suddenly you need more servers. Suddenly you need more service customer service people. You need to manage like huge demand coming into your product, and we have nice situation in my previous experience in local fashion e-commerce. It was called Food Shop. We were selling like various streetwear stuff, and our main problem after we get to the product market fit was not to sell those products, but to buy those products. Yeah, so we had such a huge demand that we were not able to get um, enough things from the suppliers to be sold, and that's also with the technical products. Usually you will have such a huge demand, it will click, but from the quantitative perspective it's also possible to measure it. Usually a good measure is, for example, the retention curve. So when you're gonna see that there is a user retention which is with the time not declining so much. So of course, as the users are coming in, maybe they're going to be active in the first week, second week, and then it's going to drop down. But if you have a product market fit, it's somehow going to stabilize. And the retention is extremely important for the technological products. So that's why we are also, when we are building products for our clients, we are saying that, hey, let's not focus at all at the beginning, like how many downloads, how many visitors, but how to make the user experience that it's going to allow those users to come again and to create a habit in their behaviors. And that's exactly what you're going to see in this retention curve. It's going to flat out and not decrease so down as in those situations when you don't have a product market fit and you are basically living from some kind of maybe initial hype, or you can attract enough users but they are just leaking somewhere away.
That makes a lot of sense. Are there any other metrics that you would recommend? Of course, like it's a complicated problem, right? I see what we do with most of our clients, that we have the proper analytics set up, and there is like so much data that we observe, and also the differences in the data like month by month. But like just to give very early stage founders maybe some idea about what else should they observe, or what else should they look at?
In general, they should have at least some kind of analytics, because that's also a main problem that what I've seen, especially with business founders, they are not so much into the product data. So step one is to having some kind of technical analytics instrumentation in the product, which is super easy these days. Yeah, you have many various products. We often use, for example, amplitude in Sudolabs for our clients. So basically, start measuring what's going on in your product, and you need to find again some patterns there, usually in the way of how different segments of your user base behave. As I said, first one is definitely retention, but another one which is pretty good is to see what is the path throughout your product and where are those main leakages. And if you see that, okay, there is some kind of touch point in your product, I don't know, a user needs to do something and many of them are leaving there, then definitely look there and try to talk to these users, try to get them on the interviews, or maybe record their behaviors and understand what's going on there. So basically, don't focus so much on adding new features into your product, but a better way how to get to the product market fit is just improving and stabilizing what you already got, understanding if those users are seamlessly flowing in through your product, and only after you get that moment, then add a new feature, then add more complexity, then explore new markets or vertical.
Perfect. Again, if anyone wants to know more, feel free to reach out here, because it's another topic for a few hours. We are already in quite deeply 40 minutes now. Let's try to maybe talk at least a little bit about your experience with building the product and tech and design teams. So can you tell us a little bit maybe where we are right now, and whether it's for startup founders or for agencies, anyone building a larger product and design team. So where we are right now in terms of the the number of people we have, how did we get here? Yeah, to start with.
That's kind of my new passion topic, because maybe a few years ago I was much more passionate about uh, um, direct product management and building products. Right now, I'm much more involved into building product teams, hiring people, maintaining the talent. So good topic for me, definitely. Um, right now in Sudolabs, our product team uh, is around 17 people, product managers, product designers, product consultants. I think in general, not looking only at Sudolabs or at agencies, as you said, but regarding product, what is important to understand that the role of a product manager or any kind of a product person in your team is not to just write tickets or to, I don't know, manage deadlines, or to be some kind of a project manager, or to just document your ideas as a founder and put it into the development process. But the role of a product manager is much more to really hold the responsibility for the business result of the end product. And usually how the best practice is saying that it should be done is that the founder or the management, the executives, should give a strategy, should give a vision, what we want to achieve as a team, as a company. And then the product managers should have enough autonomy to basically take this vision and bring the own solution with the team together, as we said before, with understanding the user needs and everything. So being a product manager, I think it's a lot of business responsibility. It's a lot of um, having a touch with the market, and not spending so much time on, I don't know, writing tickets or documenting something.
Yeah, so maybe we can consider this sort of the first learning, right? That in many organizations, actually, they don't allow product managers to do their job properly, or they don't have a properly defined product management role. Is there anything else that comes to your mind in terms of the sort of issues or learnings that you've seen when growing the team?
Well, of course, delegation is the major challenge for any manager or anybody who is building the team. So uh, this is my main lesson learned, maybe for the future. I always should have, from the early moment, somebody with me who will be helping me to do this stuff, and just basically growing the team and building the team by default. So my rule now is not to start any activity just by myself. Always have somebody with me who will be helping, who will be learning this stuff, not to isolate any kind of knowledge just with my role, because then it is so much harder to delegate it to somebody new who is just jumping there at some moment. But always try to build the team with your default mindset. And yeah, it's sometimes taking more time compared to the situation if you would do it by your alone and waiting for the moment, and you will say, okay, it's perfect enough, now I can delegate it to somebody else. So rather just uh, spend some time with somebody who can help you and build a team right from the moment one.
That's definitely some useful advice. I think that every manager, as you said, struggles with that, or at least not the stellar managers struggle with that. I have the same thing in my sales team, that it's kind of hard to delegate many times. Um, what we touched upon the sort of the first learning, right? And there, the main outcome was that people need to understand what to expect from product managers and define their role clearly. Uh, who is a great product manager? I mean, how do you know what was the right person for the topic, especially? And I think that it's very interesting in our organization, because while we have quite a few very experienced people, especially I feel like we are very good in growing junior product managers into being stellar product managers, whether it's the fact that we have our own academy that you have co-founded, that you are leading, Product Management Academy, or from the fact that especially in the beginning, where we didn't have that much resources, we had to work with younger people. Who is the right product manager? what's the profile? And for example, do they need to be technical?
If I can generalize this topic a little bit, maybe I can distinguish two different groups of product managers that can fit to very different companies or situations. There is, in my perspective, a huge difference between these early stage product managers and, let's say, rather product managers for scale ups or large already mature products. Because with these large mature products, which is beyond the product market fit, which already knows what to build and what is their solution, in that phase you need somebody more who is more, let's say, incremental, who is not just bringing new huge ideas and changing the course, but who is more like just doing little tweaks, improving, let's say, these decimal points in the conversion rates, doing small experiments. And it's much more about scalability. It's much more about building robust solutions and then just helping them to grow step by step. Completely different situation is for a product manager who has to build early stage products, right? Those words like scalability or building robust things, it doesn't belong there at all. These words don't belong there. You shouldn't be thinking in these terms like scalability, infrastructure stuff. You need to be more of an explorer. You need to bring huge pivots to the market, try something, then scrape it totally, bring something new. And I think that it's super hard to find a product manager who could cover these two things. So maybe if we are talking to the listeners who are early stage startup founders, you also should be searching for such people who are just these builders trying to get something from 0 to 1, getting this speed to the market. If you are somebody who is already having like a huge mature organization, then the product manager should be more like this one who is working with the data, doing a lot of quantitative research, experimenting, and incremental changes in the product.
That's definitely new for me. Is there any other? Is there also a distinction between, and generally in organizations, between product managers who are maybe less and more technical in the sense of having engineering background, and generally do product managers need to have that?
Not necessarily the engineering background, but they need to be technical. And what does it mean to be technical is, from my perspective, mainly about the passion into technology. So I don't need to be the like uh, fluent engineer in some kind of technology, but if I'm looking at the code, I somehow understand it, right? I don't understand the nitty-gritty details about it, but I understand what's going on there. If I talk to the engineer, I know how to talk with him. I know the words. I know what he's saying to me, and if I see some architectural diagram, it's kind of familiar for me. And it's not because I somehow maybe spend a lot of energy into understanding it, but it was more common for me. So maybe this answer for the question how much a product manager should be technical is more about like soft skill, to be passionate for the technology, to have something that is really common for you in this area. And as we are building technology products, and maybe in general, I think ideally everybody should be somehow close to technology, even if you are talking to designers, finance guys, salespeople, everybody. If we are in the technology industry, you just need to be technical.
Mhm. I um, I see, and again, I think you well explained this, that the need for the PM to be technical is mostly to like have a general understanding, of course, of the technology and how it is built. That they understand the engineers, right? Because they need to make sure that they are doing the job in the best possible way and actually helping the users with what they do. And you also said you also touched upon the designers. Do you feel like there is a quite? Do you feel this as an issue that there are conflicts between all those different roles, such as the designers want to build the most beautiful design, which is then very it's not very cost efficient to then build it, and it might not actually bring that much value for the users. Or engineers many times over engineering so that they have perfect code, but again, like they could have generated a lot more user value. Do you see this happening in the teams generally, and how much of a problem this is?
Yeah, of course it happens. I think it's not a clash so much between the roles, but it's more like clash between the personalities. So I don't think that having a product manager, product designer, and a software engineer on one team is somehow setting up the stage for the clash. What is more problematic is if you have like mismatch in the personalities, exactly as I said before. If you are building a early stage product and you hire a scale up enterprise product manager, it's just not going to fit. The same with the engineers. If you are starting your product endeavor, you are just building the first prototype, you have to have a person on your team as an engineer who likes to build such a scrappy products, who just don't want to build like academically clean code, but to have on the engineer who is exactly fitting the stage with his mindset, with his ambitions, etc. So that's why maybe we as a Sudolabs are so good in, again, early stage product building, because our team was hired with this mission. And I don't know if we should maintain some huge legacy system for some huge corporate. Maybe that's something that we would not good so much, because it's also a personality focus and yeah, something else.
I think that's definitely part of our strategy, as you said, that we have started a new even enterprise segment, but again, there we are hiring, or we have we have certain people within the existing team that fit very well there, and we are hiring people with different personalities, right? That going to be fitting and serving those clients and different skill sets. Maybe, and also, I mean, I completely agree that it seems to be much about mindset and experience in that particular stage of the company. What, from at least my experience, I see very well in sales is that the clients tend to approach us with, for example, early stage idea, and they have already built the designs. Right now, of course, as an early stage founder, you want to build something as quickly and as cheaply as possible that adds value to the users. Yet the designs are from a different provider that maybe is not the best for early stage startups, and the result is that they're gonna, in order to implement the designs and build the product according to them, they would have to spend maybe 4 times as much as they should actually in that very early stage. So I see that on the market as well.
And that's a connection to what we were discussing at the beginning, that basically your process, as you imagine it, how to go through this product development process, is to take all these roles together and iterate together on small chunks. So basically, you should not split your effort into a huge validation phase, do like product discovery for a couple of months, then do the huge design phase and build some huge design, and then a third phase would be like a couple of months development phase. No, you should go with the whole team and work for 4 weeks, validate something, design something, build something, and then move forward another 4 weeks of the design, development, and just grow a little bit. But if your initial scope is extremely huge and you give it to the design agency, and the design agency will take it and create like 10 gigabytes of Figma screens, and then you're going to develop it for another 7 months, that's like 99% of failure cases.
Yeah, sure. Well, great. I think we covered quite a lot. Is there anything else you would like to add in terms of the learnings or mistakes, whether it comes from the product building or from building the team? Something that the users might not users, but the listeners. You see, now I talk about users all the time. That the listeners can profit from, or do you think we're
you
there?
are you are user centric. That's good.
Yes.
If you are a startup founder, I would say that the recommendation from my side would be to be really willing to put so much effort into sales, which we maybe didn't discuss so much today. But If I would be a startup founder, I would solely focus on the sales perspective, talking to the potential customers, trying to find enough strategic partners, and basically build this hype externally about my product, and delegate everything regarding the product to somebody else. So definitely to find some product manager, some software engineer who is good in a product, early stage product building, and split these phases. Because if you are a founder and you focus too much on the particular product development, then you can harm more than if you will just keep it to some delegated focus team, and really try to focus on these external factors, provide enough connection to the investors, and focus there.
Yeah, and that's especially true when you are a business founder, right?
Even if you are a technical founder, I would say that if you are a technical founder, even then you would need to just understand your role as a founder, and still find somebody to yourself who will take care of the product. And unfortunately, you are a founder. Okay, you are technical. Maybe you love to dig deeper into the technical part, but still, as a founder, you need to do something else.
Yeah, sure. Cool. I will leave it at that note. Maybe we can also include you're quite an avid reader of like PM product management books, as you know we have the academy, so we can include certain interesting maybe reading points for our listeners. And thanks very much for coming, Jan. It was a pleasure. I'm sure a lot of the people learned from this. If you want to learn more, reach out to Jan or reach out to me, and we'll find some way how to do it.
Thank you very much, Joseph. It was a pleasure.
And that's it for today's episode of the Startup Huddle. Thank you very much for listening, and make sure to catch all episodes on the startuphuddle.com and follow me on LinkedIn and Twitter for more insights and updates on the world of startups. Thanks again for tuning in.